Question that I get a lot about astrology is, can you see how long someone is going to live? Longevity, lifespan, things like this. These are the questions that Bryan Johnson of Blueprint is trying to address with his work, doing all sorts of tests and studies and research. And over the last weekend, he did a mushroom journey for the sake of longevity. I think maybe he's connecting to the silliness of that whole quest. And I don't know, I'll be interested to hear his experience. Maybe his journey is very positive. It seems like he streamed the whole thing on X and YouTube and Facebook, so you can check it out if you want to see. It's kind of interesting, but his work is pretty interesting as well. And him and many other very successful people like him who have a lot of resources and capital are on this quest for longevity, because if you can have everything materially, then the biggest thing that's most scarce then is time. And if we can expand that time, maybe we could live a little longer. And maybe these people go out to the extremes and we can bring in pieces of that into our modern lives and learn from it. But in the astrology, we can actually see strong indicators of, is somebody going to be drawn to this kind of stuff? Are they going to tend to have more longevity, more energy to pursue this kind of work? And in his chart, I know he's born on August 22nd, 1977, in Provo, Utah, according to Wikipedia. And his birth time is unknown, as many public figures are. But I could narrow down, either he is Anurata Moon or Jyestha Moon. And I'm leaning towards Jyestha because that actually translates to the eldest. So that is his whole mission, to try to be the oldest. And we know that the average lifespan at most is, or the average is more like 70, 80 years old. But the longest that we've seen typically is around 120 years at most. And that actually is the length of the dasha cycle in Vedic astrology. So, at best, with all of the things that we know and could do, maybe we could live to 120 years old. He's trying to see if we can extend that a little more. Maybe we won't live to see. I don't know. Maybe we'll see it in our lifetimes. Maybe we won't. But him and many people are doing that research. And Jyestha is about that wisdom of like an older sibling, but there's also, it could be like a know-it-all energy, or trying to show that you know so much. I think he's doing this in a pretty respectful, I think it seems like a pure way. Of course, there is a business behind it, and as a corporation, like, he's required to keep increasing income, so he'll probably create more and more products and offers related to this work. But he is like the number one science experiment himself. So I think maybe his ascendant is in Aquarius in Purva Bhadrapada, which is about scientific pursuits. And there's a lot of interesting chart things in his chart if that's his ascendant. But we know 100% the moon is in Scorpio on that day. So we definitely Scorpio moon. So we can look at the chart that way. And I just want to point out some factors of longevity and lifespan that you could see in your chart or anybody's chart that he has. So Jupiter in the eighth house. Jupiter is expansion and abundance, protection. The eighth house is the sign of transformation in life. It can be a sign of loss of life. But when Jupiter is here, especially, it's a very protected energy. Venus here brings a love for transformation and growth. So, a love of doing these like experiments and projects. Mars brings the passion and action to do those things. So, he's going to be very drawn to that. And Jupiter's in Ardra in Gemini. So, he's going to be willing to persevere through big challenges. And we can say this is, if he's born on August 22nd, 1977, this is definitely his moon chart. We're just not 100% sure on the nakshatra of the moon and the ascendant sign. But these are what I think. But we can definitely say he's got this eighth house, and eighth house is about longevity, transformation, and life changes. And he's going to love to work with those kind of things and be sort of protected in his work. And generally, that's very favorable for longevity and health. He has Sun in Maga, which is, Sun is this main signifactor of vitality and overall energy. And in Maga is a very powerful placement. It's basically the best place the Sun can be besides Aries and Ashwini. And this is a very powerful placement to be a leader. And he has been a leader. And he founded a company that was then part of Venmo, and he sold Venmo to PayPal. So very successful business ventures, and that's like Sun in the 10th house in Leo, and Maga is very strong business sense, leadership sense. So he's going to definitely be leading a movement as he is doing now with what he calls the Don't Die movement in Blueprint that he's doing. And then Rahu in Virgo, again, that's like obsessed with the details. He's like measuring all of his food, very precise. And in 11th house, he gets gains from being obsessive about the details of his life. And again, this is very good for massive success and wealth and pursuit of wealth and prosperity. And then K2 is in Pisces for him. So there is also ability to be detached. I think he lives a pretty simple life. It seems like, I don't know, he's pretty busy, but I think there is like a spiritual element that I think is coming out more and more in life as K2 matures later in life for everybody. And this recent mushroom journey is probably part of his movement towards less material interests and some more spiritual, energetic interests as well. And if we have that ascendant is in Purvabhadra, then we can see that Rahu ends up in the 8th house, and that's an obsession with transformation and growth, and never satisfied to just remain content and stay as is. And that also would put Saturn in the 6th house, being very disciplined. But we don't know for sure about this one, so I don't want to go too far into it. But the last thing I'll say is Jupiter ends up in the 5th house, which is the most auspicious, fortunate place Jupiter can be. And that brings a lot of prosperity and resources and help and investors and things like that. But if we go back to the moon chart, which we can say for sure is the moon chart, we also have Mercury in Uttara Falguni in the 10th house of career. And anyone who has a Tara Falguni, this is sometimes called the millionaire maker. So it's like a great placement to have great financial success, especially when it's in the 10th house of fame and recognition and career. And it's with the sun, and the sun is super powerful. So this is a very strong indicator for a successful business person. Now, all of that I've said, I didn't even touch on Moon in Scorpio, which sometimes gets like a fearful, bad reputation. People fear it, think that it's like mental health issues and all sorts of negative stuff. And it is something that is seen in some serial killers. So there can be some intensity there. Not to like stereotype Moon and Scorpio, because I know many Moon and Scorpios who are not serial killers, and this is not how it always expresses. But part of that mindset to do that sort of thing is very intense, very deep, very much under the surface. And a lot of what Bryan Johnson is doing is very intense, very deep. Like he's taking, like, I don't know if he's still doing this, but he's taking like 90 pills a day, constantly being measured. He says he's the most measured person in history, and it's probably true. And doing constant like biohacking kind of stuff, which is just like data, research, analyzing, testing. That's all Moon and Scorpio. And if he wasn't doing that, yeah, he might be going a little crazy, because Moon in Scorpio, it needs something to focus on. And the moon is the mood, it's the mind, it's the emotions, and the mind needs a job. So wherever your moon is in your chart, like it's good to be harnessing those gifts of that sign it's in. And particularly in Scorpio, it's about research, transformation, and growth. And in Jyestha, it's about longevity and like wanting to be the eldest, wanting to live the longest, wanting to know the most. And I can share a little bit about the mythology of Jyestha. And so this is like some of the notes I use in my mentorship program. So after Anuradha's harmony and friendship comes Jyestha, the star of seniority, authority, and power. Now, on this date, Bryan could be Anuradha, and I would be surprised if he was, because he's not known for friendliness. He's known for his seniority, authority, power, leadership, and this quest for longevity. So Jyestha seems to make much more sense, but it could be on that day. Anuradha is the other place the moon was in nakshatras, so it's possible, but I think very unlikely. The deity for Jyestha is Indra, the king of the gods, welder of the thunderbolt, who stands as the eldest among the devas, the gods. Indra's rise to kingship was not without struggle. Born from the sky and waters, he grew into a warrior who challenged the serpent Vritra, who had swallowed the world's waters and held them captive. Armed with the Vajra forged by Vishvakarma from the bones of the sage Dadichi, Indra struck down Vritta in a mighty battle. The rivers flowed once more, the earth was nourished, and Indra was crowned as the king of the heavens. But Indra's stories are not only of triumph, they are also of pride. Time and again, his power made him arrogant. He feared losing his throne to mortals or other gods, and so he tested sages with temptations or struck them with curses. Yet every time his pride brought him low, he was reminded of Dharma, that true authority rests not only on strengths but on responsibility. Jyestha, the eldest, is thus both a blessing and a burden. It carries the weight of seniority, the duty to lead, and the trials of power. The star Antares, glowing red in the heart of Scorpio, marks Jyestha's place in the heavens, fierce, bright, and unignorable. The myth of Jyestha teaches that greatness brings both privilege and peril. Like Indra, one who leads must carry not only the thunderbolt of command, but also the humility to remember that even kings are bound by dharma. So we can see some of those themes in there of like creating a sort of leadership and success, but there's still challenges and struggles with this. There's a lot of responsibility and weight with being the leader and the king of the gods and Indra. And I think that this is part of the blessing and burden. He gets a lot of criticism in his work, and kind of like the older sibling energy. It's like older brother kind of energy with or older sister with Jyestha. And like if you have a sibling, an older sibling with Jyestha, they may be insufferable. And you know, he's found a good way to express this in his work and like bring out his gifts and be a leader and go through trials and tribulations and do hard things to help people. Purva Bhadrapada is also about very transformational kind of things. I don't know for sure that's his ascendant. That's my guess and estimate. But that also is about a great endurance and protecting the sacred fire and keep it burning even through the storms. It's about being fierce, demanding, and sometimes terrifying. And I understand from what I saw in his Wikipedia that many of his past employees had to sign NDAs, and some of them are trying to fight back about that. He went through a big divorce. You know, so everyone has their challenges. And I'm sure there was some stormy experiences for him in the past, and maybe he's in a different place now. I don't know. But the symbol of this is the funeral pyre, the flame that consumes the body and releases the soul. So sometimes is regarded as the threshold between life and death, between the world of man and the path of liberation. So that's in the mythology of Purva Bhadrapada, and the deity associated with it is Aja Ekapada, is invoked during sacrifices that demand great endurance. So I think there's that element of this. He's doing a lot of sacrifices. His movement is called "Don't Die," right? So, and Aja Ekapada is about protecting the funeral pyre and keeping the fire going in essence in the spirit, in the soul. So that fits a lot. I could be wrong about that. That one is many more possible ascendant placements, so we don't know for sure. But that would end up making the chart seem very resonant for what he's living through. But this is part of his journey, so we can learn from it, we can see it, and we have our own gifts. He has his gifts. You might have some of the same gifts in your chart. And also, I didn't mention Venus and Punarvasu, like a love of renewal, a love of new beginnings. That's definitely there in the birth chart on this date. So he's going to continually want to be renewed and refreshed and like reset. And he actually was very unhealthy for a while when he was just in his business work. And now he's gone through this big transformation of trying to become healthier and younger and age slower, essentially. So that's a very Punarvasu kind of energy, renewal. And then the Ardra can be quite intense, but when you put Jupiter there, it's this desire to go through the hardships for growth. So he is going to keep growing through it. Saturn and Auslasia, very transformational disciplines. His children and his family is very transformational as well in Cancer. Lots of cool stuff here. Anything else you see? Let me know in the comments on Spotify and YouTube if you see anything else interesting in the chart or have questions about any of these placements. And if you want to see anything else like this, let me know. Request in the links below. And you can also book a reading if you want to look at your own chart and see if you have any of these placements or whatever you do have in your chart, what you're working through. And we can look at that as well. Quietmindastrology.com to get your free birth chart, your free mini trainings, and schedule a reading there at quietmindastrology.com. Have a great rest of your day.